What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Mike signing another one. I'm checking back in with y'all today. I got to hit y'all with some news regarding NIL and a lot of deals that have been being rejected. So prior to July 1st, everything happened through the collectives. Collectives are led by the boosters. And in a lot of cases, they've collected a lot of donations from the boosters to essentially act in a manner of like free agency where they pay these players directly from the boosters. There wasn't really a whole lot of regulation to it. Really what happened is that NCAA versus House settlement actually went into effect on July 1st. And what that did was that allowed a lot of players anywhere from 2016 to 2021 that were not able to participate in NIL. They weren't able to take advantage of their name, image, and likeness during their playing careers in the NCAA. They were awarded a total, or will be awarded a total of $2.8 billion. Now, how they're going to spread that out per player, that remains to be seen. But there was a total of $2.8 billion that's going to be awarded to them for back pay. So that was the first part of it. The second part of it is the revenue sharing opportunity that you continue to hear. So NIL is broken down into what I would like to consider three areas. And those areas are going to be what we just talked about first, the collectives. The collectives offering a student athlete an opportunity to play golf or do social media videos or sign autographs or make an appearance. The second thing was the branding and endorsements. So you have big brands, small brands, everything in between, from your Nike, your Adidas, Mac Hike, Chevy. Those are the type of companies that were offering college athletes an opportunity to sign a deal, maybe a paid promotion. Nike would be maybe a sneaker deal. Those type of things are the second area for NIL deals. What's been newly introduced is the revenue sharing concept. This is a concept where colleges and universities are going to be paying the student athletes directly. And so we all, I guess in most cases, a lot of us wanted this to happen. Some people didn't want it to happen because of what we are seeing now that it has gone into place. So what happened is they agreed upon a $20.5 million cap for each university to be able to pay all their student athletes across the board. So we're not just referring to football. This is football, basketball, volleyball, softball, baseball. All of their sports across the board will have to fall under this $20.5 million cap. Now that's a lot of money. But the issue here is that some schools are not football schools. You got your Kentuckys, your North Carolinas, your Dukes. They have good football programs, but they've been historically thought about or looked at as basketball programs. So, this is going to make them a little bit less competitive within that salary cap range in football, because they're like, well, we gotta continue to pay big dollars to get players into our basketball program, or now we're going to fall behind. We're going to stop going to the Sweet 16, stop going to Final Four, stop competing for national championships because, we're trying to keep up with football. But we can't let football fall by the wayside either. We compete in the SEC. We competing against the Alabamas, the Floridas, the Georgias, the LSUs, and so forth. So that's kind of the first thing that you look at when you look at the cap. And why did they come up with this number, $20.5 million? They came up with that particular number because this was what they did was they averaged out the total revenue that the Power Four schools generate, and this is 22% of that. So they felt that was a fair number for each school to be able to share 22% of the revenue that they generate with the college athletes, in essence, to control their NIL rights. And that's the key part about it. The collectives, there was not a whole lot of regulation. A lot of the terms were vague. A lot of the things have been front loaded. But these schools, by them paying you directly, there's a lot of different things that are having to be sorted out in terms of whether these college athletes are is considered employees of the school, how the money is going to be taxed. With that being said, with them either being employees of the school or not being employees of the school, um, you have just a lot of different things that are going in where, when you sign this deal with the school, you may or may not have the right to sign other deals. There may be some clauses in there that say, hey, we own your rights in this regard, and you can or cannot go out and do certain things within the framework of the paperwork that you've signed. They're going to increase this, from what I'm hearing, about 4% each year. So the number will go up. But what has actually happened is that they're trying to force the collectives out. They're trying to get rid of the collectives, minimize the power that they have gained over the last several years by being able to go out and offer these kids these big deals for these boosters that have really deep pockets. So essentially, after the House settlement went into effect, they formed what they're calling the College Sports Commission. And that's going to be, or actually is, the revenue share arm that's kind of policing these NIL deals. So over the last week or two, just recently, you've seen a lot of deals be rejected. And essentially all of these deals that have been rejected, this guidance has been specifically targeted at collectives. So, these are the entities that have paid millions of dollars over the last several years to these players, and now they're particularly targeting them because they want this cap coming from the universities to essentially be it. And so, some of these schools don't have 20.5 million dollars to go out there and compete. So that's where the collectives come in at. The collectives with these boosters, with them being able to raise additional money, get donations from other avenues or other vehicles for raising funds. They were able to kind of close that gap and say, hey, we can give this kid $300,000. We can give him $1 million because we have raised a pot of funds through the collective. Now, the university is giving money through the revenue share program. Like I said, some of the universities, you think about a Western Kentucky, you think about a Murray State, you think about, some of these other programs that just don't generate the amount of revenue that an LSU does, that a Florida does, that a Texas A&M does. They are just simply not going to be able to compete, while the Ohio States and some of those aforementioned programs will have no problem with shelling out that $20.5 million. And in those cases, that's really not enough. They wish they could spend $40 million to bring in and pay for a roster that's going to be able to compete for national championships year in and year out. Co-lead House plaintiff attorney, I think his name is Jeffrey Kessler. He basically stated is that there is nothing in the settlement agreement to permit the NCAA and the power conferences or the CSC acting on their behalf to decide that it would not be a valid business purpose for a school's collective to engage in for-profit promotions of goods or services using paid for student athlete NIL, the letter reads. To the extent the NIL payment is for the promotion of a valid business purpose, it is irrelevant whether the payment comes from an NIL collective or any other third party. So that's essentially what the College Sports Commission is doing. They're saying that, hey, this deal wasn't for a valid business purpose. You can't go and give a kid $20,000 for an autograph signing. This wasn't a valid business purpose. And what the House is arguing is that, or the attorneys for the House is arguing is that, who's to say what a valid business purposes is? Why do you care? We open this up to be able to give student athletes the opportunity to monetize their name, image, and likeness, and now y'all are coming in and creating all of these rules and conditions that were not necessarily a piece of the puzzle years ago. And throughout the process, why fix something that isn't broken is what they're saying. So what they're doing is they're aiming to have the CSC to, clarify and actually retract some of these things that are going into them rejecting some of these deals. Now, a College Sports Commission spokesman said this is exactly what we agreed upon when we sat down. Everybody decided, okay, this is going to be the settlement. These are the terms that we agreed upon. It wasn't a secret that we were going to be trying to force the collectives out. So what the hell are y'all talking about? What y'all thought was going to happen? You damn right we set this settlement up to push the collectives out of place. In that letter, in that same letter that I was just mentioning, Kessler noted that valid business purpose rule in the settlement was meant to prohibit NIL collectives from simply receiving donations and paying athletes for play. It reads, it does not, however, prohibit a NIL collective from paying athletes itself, not as a marketing agent for others, if the payment is for a valid business purpose related to the promotion of endorsement or goods of services provided to the general public for profit. So some of the collective deals pay athletes to, provide an autograph. Some of them, to make an event appearance, all of which they think should be deemed legal. So, the CSC is basically, standing firm on, hey, we are prohibiting collective pay was at the heart and center of the House settlement. Everybody agreed that this was going to be the case. So the goal of the agreement is to shift athlete pay from booster run collectives to schools that are now permitted to directly share revenue with athletes under a cap system began July 1st. However, many schools are still operating their collectives as a way to provide third-party compensation to athletes that does not count against a program's cap, a way to perhaps legally circumvent the system. Any deal over $600 has to go into an NIL clearinghouse called NIL Go. If NIL Go detects any type of red flags that they consider, need further looking into, then they push that back up to, the College Sports Commission, and they take a deeper look into it. And, so far, out of almost 2,000 deals that have been submitted, at least 80 have been rejected. And they're expecting a lot more to be rejected here in the coming days and coming weeks. So, let me know what y'all think about this. I know everybody's in favor of these student athletes getting a bag, being able to take advantage of any and every opportunity that they can. We do want to preserve the integrity of the sport, but I mean, getting federal legislation involved, Trump has gotten involved. I mean, creating this college sports commission, it seems like a whole lot that they doing to kind of come in and just kind of erase a lot of the progress that's been made. So let me know what y'all think. I mean, I want to get some engagement going on this particular video, because we've got a lot of things that'll be coming in the short term, where we've already seen NIL moving at the speed of light. A lot's changing very quickly. So I just want to know what y'all think on this. Do y'all think that the collective should be still allowed to operate and pay players deals in addition to the salary cap that we seeing from the House settlement, or should that be it? Should the schools only be should the schools be exclusive in terms of the deals that they're giving the young men and women? What it seems like is that the average deal for each student athlete is actually going to be less moving forward. So if you didn't catch this wave in the last 3-4 years, where you start to see some of these crazy deals where there was one particular school that really had to have a guy or had to have a certain number of people, and they were willing to go over the top and spend much more than the next collective was willing to do. That seems like that's gonna be decreasing and maybe even eliminated. So let me know what y'all think. Go ahead while you have this video pulled up, especially if you got this far. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. We need to get you as a subscriber so we could keep pushing this content out to you guys as early and often as possible, so you can stay up to speed with what's going on in the world of sports, entertainment, and real estate. That's all I got for y'all today. Mike signing another one, signing out on y'all. Peace.